Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Totalbiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Blacklight Retribution? As usual, those of you who wish to skip straight to the gameplay, that are impatient and don't want to know things, by all means, continue in a cloud of your own ignorance and click the button on the screen to skip directly to the gameplay. Those who want to know about business model, customization, and all that other good stuff, then please, by all means, continue watching. So, folks, it is a free-to-play shooter, as brought to you by Perfect World, as the publisher of it. There was a game called Blacklight Tango Down at one point. It didn't do very well, unfortunately, so they decided to make the sequel. I have no idea how they got the money to even make one in the first place, a free-to-play game, and it's actually surprisingly not bad. So we're going to go into the details of the business model and things like that, look through the customization, and then show you a couple of matches to give you a feel as to what's going on. So this is essentially a futuristic shooter, which does contain elements of dubstep, so do beware of such things. It's got a bit of a Deus Ex Human Revolution look to it, actually. It's got a very Deus Ex Human Revolution look to it. There's nothing wrong with that, I've got to say. Nothing wrong at all. I seem to be wearing a bucket on my head. I'm not entirely convinced by the effectiveness of that visor. So this is now available on Steam. The game's been out for a little while, and there was a beta available as well a little while ago. I had a chance to play that, and it wasn't particularly tight at the time. What I'm glad to say is they seem to have sorted things out an awful lot. Now, the first thing to look at is how reasonable the business model is, or how exploitative the business model is, because that's the biggest risk. There's been a lot of controversy surrounding recent free-to-play shooters that have involved so-called pay-to-win or the perception of pay-to-win. I feel pay-to-win is a very specific thing. It's the idea of being able to buy power that cannot otherwise be accessed via the use of the in-game system, or is so far out of reach of people just using the in-game system that it might as well be pay-to-win anyway. The idea of being able to buy extra damage, for instance, like gold ammo in World of Tanks, that's essentially pay to win, because that's something that you can buy and it will make you flat out more powerful. Now the question is, does this game do it right? A good game, a good freemium game, will do a lot of cosmetic stuff, and everything else will be side grades. So even if you do kind of skip ahead, you're still only getting specifics as opposed to actual raw power. Let's have a look at what my soldier is actually geared out in, or my agent as they call him. So you can check out my profile there, and you can also have a look at things like unlocks. Now, just because you've unlocked all of this stuff, and it's a metric ton of stuff, I might add, this is all of the unlocks that are available as far as I can tell, doesn't mean you can actually use it. So if I unlock something, like this scope for instance, then I need to have either purchased it or rented it in order to use it. Now, the renting system is a curious thing. It's not the first game to have ever done renting, but I think it's actually one of the better ones. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So here, I have what's called a pre-made weapon. This comes with the Steam starter pack that you can pick up for $10, and this is the gun that I'm currently using, the Downtowner variant of an SMG. It tells you all of the stats here, and it's very, very detailed as well. If you're a bit of a stats monkey, then you'll probably like looking at this game simply because of the ridiculous amount of data it gives you about each and every gun. There's no nonsense like Call of Duty here where it just gives you a bar or an out of 10 rating. No, it's going to tell you exactly what each thing does. And it's also going to tell you the parts that the weapon is made out of. So this pre-made weapon here is made out of these parts. So in theory, you could just build this weapon. Pre-made weapons can either be rented. So if I wanted to rent the Burning Sensation, for instance. Now, this thing actually has incendiary ammo, which is quite powerful, as well as a bunch of other rather nice things. I believe this is... yeah, it is an SMG with something of a longer barrel there than my Downtowner. If I wanted to rent this, I could go to purchase, and I could rent it for a duration of 1 day using 200 GP. Now, GP is acquired by playing the game. Just to give you an idea, an average game will probably net you about 100 GP. So you play 2 games, and you get one of these. You play a really, really good game, and you can get one straight up. So that's not too shabby at all. You then have this for 1 day. Or you can store it and activate it later, if you so desire. You can even, I believe, purchase for a friend, although I'm not entirely sure how you do that. Aside from that, you can buy it permanently with Zen. Now, Zen is the in-game currency. It's actually the in-game currency for all Perfect World games. And that would cost you 750 Zen. That's actually quite a lot. That's $7.50 for a weapon. So, not exactly what I call cheap. However, what you could do is get all of the parts to actually build this. It would be a bit tricky because incendiary ammo is actually quite an advanced thing. So let's say if I want to build this, let's have a look and find out how I'd have to do it. So the first thing you want to look at is, in terms of the weapons customization, is the receiver. So the receiver is essentially the body of the weapon. And this is going to change the nature of it. So assault rifle, bolt rifle, combat rifle, burst fire, SMG, LMG, heavy assault rifle, so big beefy, as well as a tactical SMG and a burst fire SMG. These are the current weapon bodies available for primary. Shotguns are available as well. They are actually in secondary. So if I wanted to make that, what I would start with is an SMG. I have this fully unlocked, if I recall correctly. Alright. So then I need to pick a barrel for it, a muzzle specifically. And these are the ones I've got access to. These are the ones that I don't have access to. So if I were to go up to this is a level 30 break 9 here. If I wanted to equip this, I could access it early. I could essentially skip all of this by spending Zen. I could have the whole thing for 300 Zen, so I'm going to pay $3 for that. However, if I get to level 30 and unlock it, then I can just pay GP. Now, if I wanted to permanently unlock something of my level using GP, let's say I wanted the Armcom Sys 3, I go to that, GP, permanent. That's going to cost me 2,750 GP. That is quite a lot of GP, honestly. You're looking at... I'm just trying to work it out in my head. You're probably looking at about 25 to 30 games in order to get that. And the game's lasting between 8 to 10 minutes each, give or take. Not entirely unreasonable, certainly, but at the end of the day, that's a gun part. And there are a lot of different gun parts you can get. Now, as you flick between them, you'll actually see the comparisons here. Now, for the most part, from what I can tell, all of these are side grades. Even the top level here, that actually has way worse recoil than my current one, by far. This one actually has less damage, even though it's a much more accurate rifle, it's got better range, it still hurts less. And that's going to be kind of a big deal. Recoil there, we've got issues with spread there as well, but that one's going to do more damage. So everything is actually a side grade. Whether or not it's actually balanced, well, that's a different matter entirely. That very much is. Now, we can check out other things, like barrels, for instance, and that's going to completely change the look of the gun. The weapon customization is pretty intense. And if you were impressed by a game like, say, Ghost Recon, well, this has got some good stuff in it as well. Quite a lot, in fact. There's a lot of detail there. You can customize your weapon based on stats or based on looks. You can go all the way down to, say, weapon tags. These are kind of cute. You can actually put a tag on your weapon. It's got a lot of different things. But even then, these actually give stats bonuses as well. This gives a faster reload time, for instance. I have a couple of these. And the cool thing about these is that you often get these for free. Every time you level up, you get given a package in the mail, which often contains rentals, like 3-day rentals, as well as different weapon tags. So I think once I got to level 4, I got maybe 2 packs of weapon tags. And I ended up getting these weapon tags. I've got a Devil Girl, 45 caliber, these two. So I've got 6 of these things in total. And they do different things. They're tiny little bonuses. But it's a nice level of customization. In fact, it's an extreme level of customization. It really, really is. To the point where it may actually intimidate people and they might just want to go for a pre-made. Now, the thing I like about the pre-made system is that it's kind of an equalizer. So if you want to know about buying power, this baby right here is what you're talking about. This is incendiary ammo. This is currently considered to be the most powerful ammunition in the game. The reason for that is it does 70% of the weapon damage on hit, and then an additional 40% over 4 seconds. So this thing does 110% damage, and it burns you. So it does extra damage in comparison to every other type. There are other ammo types available, so let's just say I went back to receiver, let's go to there, and we flick down to magazines. So magazines, you've got different kinds that are currently available at level 1. These are, this makes me run faster. This is a lightweight magazine here. This one actually increases my reload speed, things like that, as you can see. So this is all pretty good. But if we then go to that one, we can see everything else. Now, incendiary ammo. It's a level 29 item. Accessing it early will actually cost 300 Zen for 7 days. 850 unlocks it completely for 30 days. You can't even unlock ammo permanently. It's just not possible. Now, arguably, you would say this is something like pay to win. This is buying power. But these pre-made weapons, a lot of these actually have access to it. The Burning Sensation has access to it. This one right here, the Bully, that has incendiary ammo in it. And these are actually recent additions, and I believe these were put in to combat the complaining about incendiary ammo. This one's got it as well, the Burning Man. And you can gain access to these for 200 GP a day, which is, as I said before, 2 games. Essentially, 20 minutes of work will get you a day's worth of a good gun with incendiary ammo. So, this rental system actually turns out to be really good. You don't have to pay Zen for the rentals, you can pay GP. That's pretty cool. That's actually a really nice way of doing things, in my opinion. If I recall correctly, games like Combat Arms do a similar thing. But this means that you can start off with a gun that's actually competitive. However, there are other things. The equipment, for instance. Tactical equipment. You can't get any tactical equipment until level 5, and that's the revival injector there. And if you go up here, you get stuff like heal injectors, hard suit battle modes, extra stuff, cloak, for instance. You know, that seems like it would be an absolutely huge deal. Permanently unlocking cloak will actually cost you $10. You'll have to wait till level 20 in otherwise to unlock it with GP. This I have a problem with, because this isn't a side grade, this is something I don't even have, so this is just a plain upgrade. I've not seen it make a huge amount of difference in the games up to this point, and a lot of it is sort of, I would say, support. For instance, the ammunition pod is useful, the repair tool is useful, things like that, but still, I would like to have access to at least one of these things at the start. I don't think that's truly side grade, honestly. So you could argue, once again, that this is a little bit pay to win. I don't view it as extreme by any stretch of the imagination. I think for the most part, it looks like they've nailed it down quite well. Now, what else? Customization-wise, armor. Lots of different stuff. All of this is stats as well, which is really, really nice. The stuff that you start with is actually pretty good baseline. You don't start with terrible crap. This is your standard thing, and it actually makes you start with 210 health, which is a lot, by the way. Getting more than that is actually quite tricky. A lot of these helmets actually give you less than that because they give you other bonuses. It also gives you faster run speed than the helmet I'm currently using, and a better recharge speed for your HRV, which is your, I think it's something like your hyper-reality visor. I'll explain that as a mechanic momentarily. But this all seems to be pretty damn nicely balanced, and you know what? That's actually quite impressive. It really is. Now, if we go down to the depot, this is essentially kill streaks. Now, kill streaks in this game, you earn points, so it's very much like Tribes Ascend. It's very much like, what's the best way to describe it? I would say it's very much like Section 8 Prejudice. You earn points, and you can then go to Equipment Terminal and grab an item. You get all of this to start with, yeah? So, this stuff that I've got permanent, this isn't permanent. This is something that I got as part of an unlock pack, but all of this stuff, this is permanent. You start off with this, and you've got a full set of items from the get-go, and some of them are pretty good. The hard suit. The hard suit is a full-on mech. You get this at level 1, and you can stomp around in this thing. It's pretty damn awesome. You go all the way up to the top, you'll see the other items that are available here. I think maybe they could do with a few more, but there's a fair number of them. You get a railgun, brimstone. This is an explosive orbital strike, automated sentry turrets, a minigun right here, semi-automatic grenade launcher, things like that. This is a pretty cool system, honestly. It actually even introduces an element of risk, because you have to go to the terminal and actually purchase these things. They're scattered throughout the level, and you could get killed while you're grabbing something. And if you get killed while you have one of these items, it instantly disappears. So there's a bit of risk-reward involved in that, which is kind of cool. Now, the other thing I should explain is the node system. This is kind of like runes for League of Legends, but as far as I can tell, all of these are timed. So once you use one of these, they disappear. Maybe there's a permanent one, but if there is, I ain't got one. I've got a lot of 24 hours, 3 days. They burn out. You can socket them in. Like here, for instance, we've got HRV duration 1. Maybe I want to start with 50 points, for instance. Maybe I want to throw in some more stuff. I can tighten my weapon recoil out, blackout time, incendiary ammo resistance. This is quite nice, because this actually counts as incendiary ammo quite nicely, so let's throw that in there. And maybe, you know, let's just use some of our good ones. You can also fuse ones together you don't want, and that gives you a chance of getting a better one. Admittedly, it also gives you a chance of losing it as well. For 3% XP boost. There we go, so I am fully sorted out with that. Now, if you don't want to worry about all this stuff, you can actually get a hero. Now, these are purchased, once again. These cost like 2,000 Zen. These are $20, but they're fully geared out in competitive stuff. So, they've got a full set of everything you could possibly want. I'm told at the moment that the Mars here, this guy, is a little bit OP because he currently has more armor, I think, than is possible to acquire otherwise. But that data could be out of date, and it looks like they're actively trying to balance that. So, that's kind of cool. You can also get these via chance packs. Now, this is a little bit of gambling. Let's be honest. Let's call it what it is. Reminds me something of the TF2 crate system. It's gambling. Yeah? You pay 100 Zen, you have a chance of all this stuff. As you can see. So that's the market. This is all done in-game, and all of this is Zen. Booster-wise, you can get XP boosts, and you can purchase either a 10% or a 50%, and that will at least unlock stuff a little bit faster, but it doesn't seem to give you power. So overall, if I was to assess its business model at this stage, it is surprisingly good. I will go as far as to say that for the most part, it's actually better than Tribes. Tribes could seriously benefit from being able to rent items for a small amount of experience. That sounds like a great idea. It could also benefit from the ability to pick up other people's items. This is the thing. It's just like a Call of Duty game. If you see someone with a good gun, kill them and take it. It's on the ground. You can just grab it. So that is a good equalizer. And also, bearing in mind that the roles in this game are very homogenized. This is not as fun a game as Tribes. It's a more traditional, slower-paced, aim-down sights kind of game. Your role is to shoot people. That's pretty much it. There's no light offense, light defense, kappa chaser nonsense like that. So, honestly, you don't necessarily need any items. I mean, the baseline items are good. The baseline items in Tribes are good as well, but because you have a very specific role, there are some items that are just flat out better than others. Not many, but they're there. So I would say in terms of raw fairness, this game is better than Tribes, without question. Tribes has got a lot of problems with its business model. I've said this time and again. It's getting better, but it's still not there yet, and they could learn some lessons from Blacklight Retribution. Alright, before we go into the game, I'm going to have a quick look at the options, because this is actually quite impressive. They've put a lot in here. It is very much a PC game. It's got everything that would make it a PC game. It's got DirectX 11 effects. This can actually hit your system quite hard, but it's very easy to knock down the detail and make it work. Also, yes, there is an FOV slider. It goes up to 90. I would prefer it to go higher. I don't really see why it would go to 60 then 90. I mean, why the hell would you play it in 60? But I think 90 is just a little bit too low. Like, for me, it's fine, but I know people like to play in 100 and 110. I'd say it is a baseline. It's average for a PC game. It's okay, but I would probably like to see a little bit more. You can even actually have a hard drive speed test, if you can believe this. I'm gonna test my hard drive. SSD detected. Yeah, it knows. It knows. I don't even know what that means. Is that good or not? I don't have a clue. I guess it's pretty good, but yeah. It doesn't tell me one way or the other. I guess it's a benchmarking tool. One other thing I would like to say before we actually go into the gameplay footage, my god, this game loads fast. Incredibly fast. Once you actually get the game loaded, getting into a match, as long as you can find a server, it takes less than a second on my SSD. That's pretty impressive. And the SSD my Steam Games is on is not even that great. Alright, so there we go. I've had a look at the business model. That is my opinion of it. What I see of it at the moment is it's for the most part really, really good. There's a couple of things which are a wee bit dodgy, like the tactical gear and stuff like incendiary rounds. But for the vast majority of it, the business model appears to be good, and it doesn't appear to be pay to win. But this is a first impressions video. My impressions could very much change as I go through, and I will let you know, trust me, if I find something that seems to be a little bit dodgy. Okay, gameplay. So let's get a couple of games done. There are a variety of different modes available. We can have a look at the server list to actually give you an impression as to what's available here. Pure Team Deathmatch, Domination, Capture the Flag, Kill Confirmed is now in the game. That's very very new. There's a clan showdown there as well. There's also stuff like Net War, Hello Deck, all sorts of different things. King of the Hill. There are quite a lot of game modes. There's also a hell of a lot of servers as well, and they seem to be in reasonable places. This is a server-based game. There is no peer-to-peer in this. So, for the most part, the pings are pretty good, but do make sure that you're on a decent server for your ping. Game time. Let's do it. Alright folks, let's kick it off on a domination map, shall we? So this is one of the game modes available. Capture and hold control points. Very, very similar to other FPS games, although there is a little bit of a twist to this, and I'll show you once I get into a position to capture. So, what the hell was that aimbot that I just put in there? That wall hack, that horrendous piece of cheating tomfoolery? That's actually part of the game. It's called the Hyper Reality Visor, and it's a very limited use ability, which allows you to see through walls and locate the position of your enemy. We'll talk more about that impact on the game in a second. I'm going to hack this. So, there's a little mini-game here. You've got to pick the right number out of two. You either press left or right to do it, so if you're not paying any attention, then you can fail. The faster you do it, the better, and that's how you hack. So, it's a little bit tense, honestly. It really, really is, and I'm going to try and defend this as best I can. There we go, second one down, no problem whatsoever. Oh great, I'm a high threat and a warlord, which means there's a hell of a lot of bounty on my head, but also plenty of opportunity to make some money. Use my Hyper Reality Visor there to look through the walls to see if anyone happens to be nearby. So this is very, very limited duration that's affected by the items that you're currently wearing. And then it's got a recharge timer. So some people will run with very little Hyper Reality Visor, and others will run with an awful lot of it. If you become too reliant on it, of course, then you get screwed over because you can't shoot while you're in Hyper Reality Visor mode. The cool thing about Hyper Reality Visor is that you never go too long without finding somebody. One of those problems that I've had in Team Deathmatch modes more often than not, or in Domination, is that I run around and I just don't see anyone. Well, that's not actually a risk at all with the Hyper Reality Visor. You will find people, and they will find you. Everyone has access to this, so it's something of a level playing field. It also means that camping is impossible. If you sit around trying to camp, you will be seen, you will be snuck up on. The Hyper Reality Visor gives you the information you need to flank your opponent. It actually gives you a hell of a lot of tactical info that can be used to your advantage, obviously. I mean, what else would it be used for? But the fact that it's available to everyone creates a rather interesting dynamic, and it always means that the action is ongoing. So, while I was certainly doubting why the hell this thing should have been in the game to begin with, I actually rather like it. It also means there's no minimap in this game, none whatsoever. You've got to rely on the Hyper Reality Visor as well as your ears. You can hear people running around nearby, so you should be aware of where people actually are, and you should be paying attention. This actually gives it something of a different dynamic to a lot of modern military shooters, even though otherwise it's actually quite similar. And gunplay-wise, this feels very similar to games like Modern Warfare. They're fairly easy to use guns, they don't have a huge amount of recoil on them, it's not too difficult to kill people with them. Time to kill varies depending on what people are actually geared with. You can have upwards of like 225 health with an armor percentage that actually reduces incoming damage, depending on what your loadout is. So I would say the time to kill in this game is more than a game like Modern Warfare, but still not particularly long, as demonstrated. That's one of the problems with hacking here. You get locked in on your hack, and you've got to do it pretty damn fast, and hope that someone's watching your back, because if they're not, then you're probably going to die. Now, that fellow over there actually went to a weapons depot. We'll check one of those out later in the video. Those weapons depots can spend the CP that you acquire throughout the game. You'll see I've got 1,135. That's actually quite a lot. Should be able to gain access to quite a bit with that. I'm going to grab the hack here first, playing the objective as much as possible. Thank you very much, but it looks like we might have a few fellows trying to cause some problems there. Try to throw off a grenade there. I actually have a couple of grenade types. I've got a toxic grenade, and I've got a frag grenade. I think I may even have an EMP grenade in my loadout as well. So you can take a lot of different types of grenades in your equipment slots if you so desire. A toxic grenade in that room would have actually denied use to it for about 10 seconds. Very useful. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to throw it before the enemy took me down. And that's a bit of a problem with grenades in this game. They do take a while to prime and throw. So aside from the more tactical grenades, things like the digi-scramble grenades, which cause this kind of digital camouflage, they block the Hyper Reality Visor, they cause a lot of distortion on your screen. I've not found a huge amount of use for the frag grenades. Alright, time to break out some of my hard-earned moolah. Now, this is very similar to getting one of the battle suits in Section 8 Prejudice. This is a hard suit. Now, the hard suit does not have access to the hyper-reality visor, unless, of course, you get a particular piece of tactical equipment that gives you a brief pulse of it. But it does have a minigun and a railgun, which is pretty damn awesome. Now, it's a bit bulky, and it doesn't move all that fast, but you can maneuver it through corridors, and you can then mow people down with this thing. The railgun is extremely effective at long range, assuming you can aim it. There is no aim down sights for this, so you have to be fairly precise with it. It also has a boost mode, which allows you to shoot forward, although once you've done that, it brings you to a standstill for a couple of seconds, so you can be a little bit vulnerable. Now, how vulnerable can you really be in a massive mech with 14k health? Well, the answer comes in the form of a weak point. Each one of these mechs has a weak point that can be revealed by the use of the hyper-reality visor. So you can be taken out quite easily, assuming that your opponent uses their hyper-reality visor and actually plans his attack. You can also pull a rocket launcher from the weapon depot or a flamethrower. Both of those are very effective at taking down a hard-suit mech. You also can't hack objectives, take flags, or anything like that in a mech either, so they're surprisingly balanced. I think that a lot of new players are going to be a bit confused by it because they don't understand the weak point system. Use your hyper-reality visor, and it will locate the weak point. Then shoot that weak point for all it's worth. It's really as simple as that. A lot of these guys don't seem to figure that out, so I can go a little bit crazy with it. You can see that guy right there is trying to get at my weak point. He hasn't done a lot of damage yet, so he's not managed to land anything. Should be able to nail him down without too much of a problem there. So we've still got 11k HP on this thing. Nobody's tried to take me out with a rocket launcher or flamethrower. No one's really hit my weak point as of yet, so I'm not too concerned. I'm pretty stompy. I'm doing a lot of damage here. This is a lot of fun to play, I might add. The hard suit is an absolutely fantastic thing. Unless, of course, you get barbecued by a guy with a flamethrower, just like that. Very effective use of it. That's a fantastic way to deal with the hard suit. That's one of the things, I think, that takes this game and moves it just a little bit away from the traditional shooting model. Because, if I'm honest, the weakest part of this game is actually just its shooting. Because there's not really a huge amount to it, yeah? It's your standard kind of modern warfare style of shooting. And, wow, I don't know who left the hard suit lying around, but I'm going to jack that as quickly as I can. There we go, it's a bit damaged, but not badly so that should be fine. Unless that flamethrower guy's around here somewhere. And it turns out he is! So, nicely hunted down, there we go. The shooting is not inspired. Not at all. It is run-of-the-mill average. So, elements like the hard suit, elements like flamethrowers, elements like cloaking devices, deployable shields, and the fairly wide variety of game modes, as well as the little hacking minigame that's going on, contribute to a above-average experience. If this had better shooting, more inspired shooting, it would actually be one of the best FPS I've played in quite some time. For the modern military shooter style, it is very competent. For a free-to-play game, it is extremely competent. I have not played a free-to-play game of this style, which is actually as polished and as tight as this. It really does ooze competence from every pore. I love the aesthetic as well. I'm a huge fan of it. Very much reminds me of Deus Ex Human Revolution, as well as, of course, the forthcoming Call of Duty Black Ops 2, the near-future stuff. It's got this really cool sort of hack style to it, and I certainly approve of that. Alright, let's grab ourselves something and grab another hard suit, but I'm just going to grab a flamethrower, because, hey, why not? Now, you can change your loadout eventually as you unlock different stuff, so if you don't like the flamethrower, you can get something like a minigun or whatever. So you do have a wider variety of weapons and equipment than you might think. You can also grab anyone else's weapon on the ground, too. One of the other cool things you can do is there's actually some optional entrances in some of the maps, including the Capture the Flags, where you actually have to hack the console. Like this one, for instance. This will give me access to an area I otherwise wouldn't have, but it's a risk. It's a risk-reward. I've got to hack this and I might get killed while I'm doing so. So hopefully I've got someone watching my back. But this gives me a more direct access to the courtyard in the center, and an additional way to actually get around and flank my opponents. So that's a good element of design. There's obviously been an awful lot of thought put into Blacklight Retribution, and while I've become somewhat sick of modern military shooters, this has got just enough different to it to actually keep me playing. When I played it in the beta, I actually found it uninspiring, but I think because they've tightened it up so much, and the introduction of those pre-made weapons has actually really made the difference. Wow, I think I just got punched in the face. I don't know what's going on there. It really does bring the game out of this horrendous little rut that it was in previously, in that it was just flat out generic. Here, not so much. Alright, let's play one more game, shall we? Just straight up TDM. I've even applied a camo to my weapon here, which I believe is like a 3-day camouflage that I've got. So, cosmetically, you can get a hell of a lot of stuff by paying for it. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it because a lot of items are just really expensive. Like, you're paying maybe $4 or $5 for a weapon camo. I don't really know if I'd actually want to do that, but hey. The thing is, you can also get stuff like weapon camos and 3-day unlocks every time you level up. Every time you level up, you actually get a pack of stuff that is appropriate for that level, and all of it's 3 days. So, if you don't want to pay for anything, it's actually not that hard to do that. It's not remotely difficult at all to stay within the free model. I love the fact that even though I can get slapped around by someone that's spent a lot of time and is high level and has unlocked everything that allows him to build the gun of his dreams with the gun construction system, I can still rent a gun that's probably just as good. Like, oh, that guy's got incendiary ammo. Okay, I'll play 2 matches, get 200 GP, and for 24 hours, I too have a really nicely balanced gun with incendiary ammo. That's something that most games don't do, and it's a great equalizer. I've never really felt myself get dominated by someone that's much higher level than me. In these games, I'm at level 3 and 4, and I'm able to equip myself very, very well. I'm going up against guys who are level 10 upwards to 20, and obviously, while they're pretty damn good at the game, let's be honest, when it comes to modern military shooters, these skills are highly transferable. They really, really are. So, going for headshots and actually aiming down sights is not a particularly difficult skill. We're not talking Tribes level of difficulty here, we're not talking Quake. We're talking, hey, it's kind of Modern Warfare-ish, but just a little bit more interesting because of this whole cyberpunk hack thing that's going on, and the aesthetic is really rather interesting. Alright. Once again, a failure with those grenades, but at least I was able to take him out without taking too much damage. I used my hyper-reality visor to discover there's actually someone right up there, and hopefully we can ambush him. Or get ambushed by him. Well, that could have gone a hell of a lot better, couldn't it? Good God, indeed. Oh, well, at least he got picked off after that. I think it might be time to go on just a little bit of a hard suit rampage at the end of this. Yes, I think we can pull that off. Just need a little bit more CP in order to actually make that happen. I think modes-wise, kill confirmed and domination are probably my favorites. There is a capture the flag, but it's a little bit frustrating because the pubbies don't tend to play it very well. It's really not all that helpful whatsoever. Domination, people seem to get it, although a hell of a lot of people don't play the objective. But I do, so that can actually make the difference. TDM's fine. Normal deathmatch is fine too, as well, if you're into that kind of thing. Although, once again, that does involve getting flanked quite a bit. But I think the flanking problem does disappear somewhat. One, because 90 FOV and not 60. Like a certain game, Modern Warfare 3. And secondly, because of the hyper-reality visor, if you get flanked, it's kind of your own fault. You've got infinite situational awareness, at least while the hyper-reality visor is active. Bloody well use it. Find out where your enemy is, find out the best way to flank them, find out the best way to put yourself in a beneficial position, while everyone else is trying to do the same thing with you. Tricky, to say the least, and I really shouldn't have stood there. Didn't have an awful lot of health remaining. I am surprised how much I actually enjoy this, really. Considering I'm kind of sick of this subgenre of FPS, this was a bit of a breath of fresh air, even though it doesn't do a huge amount different. It does just enough different. And it feels good. It doesn't feel like I'm being dominated by people that just have flat-out more stuff than I do. Which is, let's be honest, the case in an awful lot of games. I think what really helps is the fact the game empowers you with information. A game like Modern Warfare or Battlefield or anything like that would not provide anywhere near the amount of stats that this game does. Like, every single little customization that you do to your gun and armor, it's going to give you a direct RPG-like comparison to your existing gear. And the gear it gives you at the start is actually a good baseline. It's a good, flat-out baseline that is genuinely good. It is competitive. The only reason that it wouldn't be competitive is because you don't say have incendiary ammo, which I think is the one big bugbear that I've got with the game, the existence of that and just the way that it's currently balanced. Because the rest of the ammo is actually quite good. You've got like toxic ammo. I think the toxic ammo does slightly less damage than a normal bullet, but it does it over time, and it also slightly obscures their vision. Explosive ammo actually has a screen shake with it, and it also means that an opponent killed by it can't be revived. And there's electro ammo as well, which gives extra damage to hard suits and turrets and things like that, but otherwise does 90% damage. So that's a really nice variety. That's genuine depth and breadth and side grading. But Incendiary, on the other hand, is just flat out better than everything else. So I think that's probably the reason I don't like it too much. But I think more so than anything, it might just be the frustration of dying to Incendiary ammo. It's like the frustration of dying to a pyro after you've killed the pyro. Speaking of the frustration of dying, he ran right into my toxic grenade, so I picked up the nice double kill there and a huge amount of points in the process. So I cannot really complain. Now I've got a ton of CP. I think it's time to go on a little bit of a rampage. Because it gives you all of this information, and because you can see directly at a glance the comparison between your gun and the highest end gun you can possibly get. And he's like, huh, actually my gun's a little bit better than that in some ways. Maybe it doesn't have the tighter cone in close range. Maybe it spreads a little bit more from the hip, but you know what? It hits a bit harder, or it's got a bit more range. Because of that huge number of stats and the subtle ways in which each component actually adds and subtracts from them, that, to me, indicates that the game really has actually achieved true side gradeness. I don't think it's fully balanced by any stretch. As I said, there's complaints about Incendiary, and there were complaints about the Mars hero as well. I don't know if this is still true, because again, this is the first impressions, but I read quite a bit on the forums that the Mars hero actually has more armor than can otherwise be acquired via the acquisition of normal items. So that could be considered by someone to be paid to win, but even then, it's only a couple of percent. How much of a difference does that really make? No doubt there are balance issues with certain abilities and things being considered cheap, but I think for the most part, they've actually kind of nailed it. They really, really have. And I'm genuinely shocked by that, because they shouldn't have. Most other games don't manage that. They genuinely do not. Yet, Blacklight Retribution seems to have nailed it down pretty damn nicely. Also, this hard suit's so much goddamn fun to play in. Like, I'm just gonna sit on the gantry gunning down people with a minigun. Why the hell not? And oh, railguns are nice, especially if you happen to be reasonable enough at aiming the bloody things. Rampage is continuing at this stage. There's also stuff like custom servers, so you can actually play clan scrims and things like that. There are some things I object to. There's some services which just flat out cost too much money. I think changing your name costs like $15 or something along those lines. That's just crazy. Why would you? Just why would you? What is the point? I think you can get a gender change and that'll cost you $10. This is not World of Warcraft, guys, but at least they're not charging you a subscription fee for the bloody privilege. So I guess that I can like them for that. There was a hell of a lot more that could have gone wrong with this game. By all rights, this game should be a pay-to-win cash shop bonanza. By all rights, level 30 should be dominating level 1s at every single turn, and yet that is not what I am seeing in my first impressions. I'm going to continue to play this game because it's actually fun. I'm genuinely enjoying my experience with this game, and I feel the progression is quite nice. I like being able to trial different weapons with the rental system. I like just saying, you know what, today, I want to use this gun. I might never use it again, but all I need to do is pay 200 in-game credits, and I can do it. No problem at all. I can grab this gun for an entire day and just mess around. I like that kind of flexibility. That is a great way to do things. And I'm genuinely impressed. It does help that I'm also kind of good at it. What can I say? Every now and again, a little bit of an ego boost is quite nice. El Poncho Grande rides again. Check it out, folks. It's currently available on Steam. It's worth a shot. The starter pack is $10. You can otherwise play it for free. Starter pack comes with the gun that I was using for this entire presentation. It's not too shabby, as well as a lot of customization. There you can see the amount of GP you get for playing pretty well. I can almost rent a gun for an entire day on a single match. It's not bad, is it? My name is Totalbiscuit, taking a look at Blacklight Retribution. I'll see you next time.